weapons. He was going into combat with a sling and a stone. The Philistine thought it was a joke. The rest of the Israelite army thought it was a joke. This was a weapon that was a very unlikely weapon. Now, there's a sling and a stone. You hold on to these two sides, swing it around. And so, let's see, where... Okay. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone, this is verse 49, and slain it. And smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell upon the face of the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took a sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they did what they said they would say. Okay, we're your servants now. No, they fled. So, here, David wins the day with the sling and the sword. Not with the armor and the weapons that they would think of at the time. In 1 Chronicles 12:2, this is following. This is a little ways that the Saul's reign has ended. David's reign has started in Hebron. And there's a battle between the son of Saul, I forget the exact, starting with an A, and Saul, the forces of Saul and the forces of David. And they were armed with bows and could use both the right hand and the left in hurling stones and shooting arrows out of a bow, even of Saul's brethren of Benjamin. I don't know if you caught this. They considered, by this point, a sling and a stone to be an effective weapon. Right? They were saying, one of the things that's best about these guys is they knew how to sling a stone. From them, before this, that was an effective weapon. It's an unlikely weapon, but it is an effective weapon. I don't know why I'm going to skip that for a second. 1 Corinthians 10:4 says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. So when we go into combat, we don't go into combat with swords. This is Admiral Yamato. Admiral Yamato is the one who planned the attack against Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Told Admiral Yamato, "You are a very wise man." And Yamato said, a truly wise man would find a way not to fight. So unlikely weapons. Unlikely weapons because it just doesn't make sense to even most Christians that it would work. One of them is the Bible. There's a lot of people who don't like to use, a lot of churches don't like to use the King James Bible. They say the words are archaic and hard to understand. But you know what happens? There was, I'm trying to think of the evangelist, Billy Graham, I think it was. He would give out different Bibles. He would give out the Living Bible. He would give out the NIV at the end of his. And somebody asked him once, "You gave out all these different Bibles, but whenever you preach, you always preach out of the King James. Why?" And he says, "Because it's the only one that seems to work." If Bible is used by someone who knows how to use it and has practiced, who has proven the Bible, others can look, wow, you know what? That is a good weapon. I think I'll start using that. The Bible says In Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. If you ever get into a debate, or if you ever seen a debate, what is the first thing that the evolutionist wants to say is off the table, you can't use? What is the first thing he says you can't use?
Genesis 1.
You can't use the Bible. That's the first thing they don't want you to use. You know why? Because they know there's power in the Bible. Correctly, you could inspire other people to put their trust in that instead of their reasoning, their great oratory. This can get a lot done. Door-to-door soul winning. That's something that's been, churches have been canceling by the droves because they don't think it works. But you know what? You get somebody that can get done effectively, who knows what they're doing, they can inspire other people to start doing it themselves. Door-to-door soul winning. Modesty. 1 Timothy 2:9 and 10. In like manner also the women adorn themselves with modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broidered hair, not with squiggly hair, or gold. Let's take that again. Or pearls. I apologize. Or pearls, or costly array, but which becometh women professing godliness with good works. But this kind of modesty is not only just for girls, it's also for God. Being modest is an effective weapon that can be used to make you different and better than the people around you. People recognize when somebody is modest, and it does make a difference in what they can do. Another effective weapon that can be used for God, humility. You know what? This is a little bit difficult because we want to point out how good we are. You know what human nature is? Human nature is that I believe I am the epitome of what a person can be. You know why? Because I know myself the best, right? You know yourself the best. You don't know anybody else in this room as well as you know yourself, right? Am I right? Yeah. And since you are the epitome of what human beings should be, you think people the closest to you, the closest to what you are like, are better, and people who are not quite like you are less. It's not something we do naturally. Now, what is humility? Here's a couple of different Bible verses on that. The fear of the Lord is an instruction of wisdom, but before honor is humility. Proverbs 18:12. Before destruction, the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility. That is spelled correctly. That's how it's correct in the King James. So that's not a typo. I had to correct my dictionary. Added, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's not self-deprivation. It's not, well, I can't do anything, and I can't, I'm nothing, I can't. It's not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So humility is a good weapon when you're talking about spiritual warfare. Humility. I was thinking about doing a video, but I don't know how to do that yet. But my son used to like, and there's another train by the name of Spencer, who's always trying to make it look like he's faster than Thomas, and of course he is because he's 10 times his size. But he comes in gloating about the fact that he had won the race. So, hey Thomas, you're too slow, I won. And it's kind of interesting, Thomas uncharacteristically goes, yes, good job, congratulations. And in this scene, it's just like, Spencer is just like sitting there going, couldn't say anything. Because instead of using the weapon of pride, where you have two proud people hitting each other like this, he used humility and completely disarmed the one who was gloating. Humility can be an effective weapon as well. Now that's all the slideshow, the slides. Another idea of what is an effective weapon for you. Your testimony. I remember when I first got saved, I ended up in a Methodist, I was in a Methodist church. Methodist churches do not teach soul winning. At least not the ones that I went to. And so I was on an airplane. There's very few people on the plane. I had a burden to witness to the stewardess. I didn't know Bible verses. I didn't prove that. I didn't know Bible verses. I had just gotten saved. The only thing I could do was tell her my testimony of how it is I got saved. That is an effective weapon. What did I do? I didn't. I just continued going to church year after year. And eventually my grandfather got saved because of not me ramming things down his throat, but because of my testimony. I used the weapon that I could use, my testimony.